And you're good to go.
Hi, everybody. My name is Senel Poyrazli. I teach at Penn State. First, I would like to thank Division 17 for this honor. And also, I would like to thank Dr. Ayşe Çiftçi for supporting my nomination. It is great to be included among so many fellows who are dedicated to the advancement of our field. Let me first tell you a little bit about where I come from, my family, and my father being the reason that I'm college educated. I was born and raised in Turkey. I grew up in a traditional subculture. While I was growing up, I was given two sets of messages from my parents. My mother wanted to make sure that she taught me things that would position me well to be sought as a bride or daughter-in-law. She wanted me to learn how to cook, how to clean, and also to take care of my younger siblings. She would teach me to be polite, quiet, and not to talk about my opinions in public. She would tell me things like, if you don't learn these things, nobody will want you for their son. No men will want to marry you. Of course, my mother was doing what she was culturally expected to do as a mother. Let me tell you about the marriages in my home subculture before I continue. Most marriages are love marriages. After the couple falls in love and decide to get married, the man would have to convince his family that the woman is good enough to be considered as a wife. And if he is successful at convincing his family, then he would take his parents and sometimes some elderly family members on his side of the family and go and visit her family to ask for her hand in marriage. The process was that always it was the man's family that would come to visit the woman's family to ask for her hand in marriage. My father said something when I was in 7th grade that changed my whole perspective about the world and how things should or can be handled. One day I remember my mom starting to talk about how again I should learn to clean and cook, and that if I didn't, no mother-in-law would come to ask for my hand in marriage for her son. My dad turned to me and said, "Don't worry about it. Get good grades, go to college. When you finish college, you can decide who you want to marry. Then we'll go and ask for his hand in marriage." My father changed my perspective toward the world, toward how things are supposed to be handled, toward gender roles, toward what I could and could not do as a girl and later as a woman. While many parents growing up at that time would be expected to invest their money into buying property, my dad chose to invest into his children's education. We were 4 siblings. All of my siblings went to college. My brother is a psychologist, and I have 2 sisters that are engineers. I wish for all parents to support a college education for their children, especially for their daughters. I came to the United States at the age of 22 as an international student right after I finished college. First, I learned English for a year, then I got my master's and doctorate. My doctorate at the University of Houston was not easy. It was research rigorous and required 12 credits of coursework every semester. In my 2nd year, I was conducting research, taking classes, completing a practicum, and taking care of a baby. I was a new mother. If it hadn't been for my advisor and dissertation chair, Dr. Arbona, leading the way, I would not have been able to complete my degree in a timely manner, or maybe not at all. As somebody who was still learning English, my writing skills were quite bad. As you know, when we learn another language, our understanding, reading, and speaking skills develop much faster than our writing skills. Dr. Arbona taught me how to conduct research and how to write. With each draft of writing I would bring to her, she would correct my sentences patiently. I would take her feedback, work on a new draft, and bring the paper back to her. She would quietly and patiently read it again and provide further feedback. She did not shame me ever for how many mistakes I made in my writing. She provided scaffolding for me to become a better writer. She also helped me learn to navigate my way in the United States professionally. When I felt lost, she served as my lighthouse. She was my role model. After I graduated, I did not keep in touch with Dr. Arbona, but her internalized voice always guided me. About 8 to 10 years after I graduated, I crossed paths with her in New York at a conference. She came to the session in which I was going to present. She approached me, introduced herself, and asked me if I remembered her, as if I would ever forget her. After receiving my doctorate, I took a job as an assistant professor at Penn State, and now I'm starting my 20th year as a full-time professor. I've been actively involved with an APA since I was a doctoral student, thanks to my professors in Houston. Among many other things, I served as the chair of IMOC, International Mentoring and Orientation Committee in Division 17, and also president of Division 52, International Psychology. These experiences at APA and my international status shaped my career identity as an international counseling psychologist. In this identity, I dedicated myself to the advancement of counseling psychology, not only in Turkey and in the United States, but also more globally. My professional development and work at APA allowed me to see that an exchange of information among world psychologists was necessary to advance the field of psychology and promote tolerance, understanding, and acceptance among different groups. Now I'd like to tell you about two areas of my research that are interrelated: psychosocial and academic adjustment issues among college students from an international and comparative perspective, and also culturally responsive teaching and counseling practices in the curriculum and in clinical practice. I studied many variables related to international students. A finding that emerged repeatedly in my work was that international students' level of English proficiency and also the type of group with which they mostly socialize relate to whether or not they will have positive psychological experiences. Students who had higher English skills showed higher levels of positive psychological outcomes. In addition, students who primarily socialized with others from their home country showed lower levels of adjustment and acculturation. My research also identified that academic concerns, stress, and anxiety were among the top 3 leading concerns for international students. My research has shown that compared to their US counterparts, international students are in a more disadvantaged position in that they present with higher levels of homesickness and higher levels of perceived discrimination. An implication of these findings is that different intervention strategies are necessary to help international students with their successful transition to college. My second area of research contributes to the field of international psychology and the efforts to internationalize the psychology curriculum. I published an article about the validity of Rogerian therapy in Turkey to help clinicians there to see that this theory is not applicable to every client we serve. In addition, I published in English several book chapters related to Turkish counseling and psychotherapy practices so that other psychologists in the world can be informed about these practices in Turkey. My most recent accomplishment in this area is my co-edited book with Shalmer Thompson entitled International Case Studies in Mental Health, published by Sage Publications. It showcases different mental health practices around the world while also informing readers about different contextual conditions in other countries that may affect a person's psychological well-being. I strongly believe that as psychology continues to expand beyond borders, it is vital that we educate would-be practitioners about the resources and knowledge that already exist in different regions of the world. In this book, there were 11 case studies that were from the following countries: And some of the authors that have contributed to different chapters were as follows, and I'm sure you recognize many of these names from Division 17. My advancement and success in my career weren't super easy. I experienced some roadblocks. When I faced these roadblocks, I felt confused. I felt anxious and frustrated. And I was confused, frustrated, and anxious for the fact that I could not understand why some people would discriminate against me just because I was from another country, or they felt threatened by my success, perhaps because I was a woman and a foreigner. What helped me to overcome and also to strategize against these obstacles was my colleagues and friends, both at my institution and at APA. These individuals are experienced, they are committed to social justice, and they have a lot of wisdom. And I'm grateful that they are present in my life. Thank you.